Welcome today to our webinar. We are going to be talking about navigating the AI journey and building the future-ready law firm. I am Caroline Hill. I'm the Editor-in-Chief of Legal IT Insider, and I'm joined by a great panel today, joining me to share their knowledge and experience of what this means in practice in terms of leveraging AI in order to build the future-ready law firm are Henrik Salikat, who is Chief Revenue Officer at sa.global, Nigel Lang, who's Chief Information Officer at Fieldfisher, and Adam Steele, who's Business Application Industry Director for Professional Services, Media and Telco at Microsoft. Hi, guys.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It's really great to have you on the webinar today. So we're going to be looking, I'll just do a tiny bit of housekeeping, but we're going to be looking at AI isn't a magic wand. It's an ever-continuing journey, and you need the right data, you need the right skills, you need the right culture. And you are going to be talking to me from your different but very much overlapping perspectives on what that means. We've got a really busy, we're seeing really busy live crowd. If you're listening to it live, please ask questions at any point. We'll do our best to answer them as we go or at the end. And very, very welcome. You're very much welcome today. It's really great to have you here. So we're going to, just in terms of the agenda, so we're going to, today is a sort of learning opportunity for all of us, I think, to bring us up to date on the sa.global platform, to bring us up to date on the work that Fieldfisher has been doing in terms of preparing the platform and preparing itself to become AI ready. And it's great to have Adam on board as well to bring that Microsoft perspective, not only in terms of the work that sa.global and Fieldfisher are doing, but in terms of the wider professional services use cases. And we'll be talking a lot about, or a bit about Copilot as well. So we'll be looking at some of the journeys for sa.global and Fieldfisher, and then we'll be looking at the routine in terms of the preparation work that's been done, and then how that paves the way for the transformative. So we'll be looking at assessing AI readiness and how to innovate, and the fact that you shouldn't be innovating in pockets. So we could start, Henrik, if you could bring us up to date or outline the sa.global platform for us, that would be a really great way to start.
Yeah, happy to, and fantastic to see, 130 over nearly 40 people on the call this afternoon. So really happy to be here and looking forward to the next session. So sa.global, in a nutshell, is redefining how law firms operate by delivering a transformative and end-to-end practice management platform built on Microsoft Dynamics 365, and it's specifically tailored to fee earners and other roles that you have within legal firms. We offer this as a subscription-based solution, which accelerates firms' adoption of the Microsoft Industry Cloud for law firms, and we're providing a solid platform for automating and optimizing day-to-day processes. Our deep understanding of the legal industry, our approach is relatively simple. For us, it's all about getting as many firms onto platform as quickly as they can, because that allows them to focus on strategic initiatives like AI, automation, advanced analytics, and so forth. By seamlessly integrating front office operations, billing, as an example, in-depth reporting, we empower firms really to enhance the efficiency. We help to reduce friction, and we really leverage the power of AI to drive predictive insights and personalized client engagement. Our solution is more than just a piece of software. That's at least what we believe. It bridges technology and industry expertise to help law firms thrive in the digital age, and providing what we believe is a superior experience for both the employees and the clients.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for that. And then, Nigel, if you could bring us up to date in terms of we're going to be doing more deep dives, obviously a bit further on, but if you can talk to us about where Fieldfisher is in your journey, perhaps describe the platform and some of the work that you've done to date, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, of course, Caroline. And again, thank you. Just to reiterate, thank you for inviting me to this. So for those that aren't familiar with Fieldfisher, let me just give you a very brief intro. So we're a European law firm, circa around 2,500 employees, 23 offices across Europe, and market-leading practices in technology, financial services, energy and natural resources, and life sciences. We've been with sa.global for quite a number of years. I guess we're kind of relatively unique in legal at the moment. We're one of the few that has a practice management solution already in the cloud, and the adoption of using Microsoft. So it kind of fitted really well with, you know, our AI strategy. I think it's fair to say, like a lot of firms, we have really woken to the fact that AI is going to be a game changer in our industry, not just obviously within legal, but across multiple industries, and really have begun to focus on what that internally and externally looks like. So as part of that, we've really aligned ourselves to our kind of a core technology stack, and hence the relationship with sa.global and with Microsoft. And much of our AI strategy has been based and is being built upon that. It's fair to say, and I can talk about this in more detail later, but we have really 4 key pillars of our strategy. The first being kind of cultural change, identifying how and what we need to do as a business to get AI adopted, building the skills to actually enable that cultural change, and then focusing on the processes that we really want to adopt and to alter, and to really call out the use cases there. And then lastly, the selection of the technology. Now, on the technology front, we are still kind of in the early days, as many law firms are, in the early days of AI adoption. But we have kind of made a couple of key strategic decisions. The first being to focus and centralize mainly around Microsoft. As I say, we're on a Microsoft stack. It made perfect sense. We've built products off the back of that. We've gone a bit of bespoke. So we've built some custom AI chatbots, which we're utilizing our practice management data to be able to access that in our own custom way. We've looked at Copilot, and we're in the process of a pilot. I hate this pilot with Copilot, but we're ramping those numbers up quite considerably, and that is across a lot of our European estates. So really, you know, pushing it for where and getting the value out of it for where we can see right now. There's a strategic advantage, and also some focus on more specific line of business applications, predominantly in the real estate practice area, both using custom AI development as well as some legal products that are now available in the open market. So, you know, hopefully gives you a bit of a flavour for some of the areas that we focused on. But the key to it, as I say, is strategic alignment with key partners.
That's really great. And you touched on 2 things that will obviously develop, but it's fascinating that, you know, firms are so, I've seen a massive sea change in terms of firms being comfortable with having their PMS in the cloud, but obviously you were very much one of the forerunners of that. And obviously firms really doubling down on their Microsoft investment, particularly now, that a lot of firms are piloting Copilot. You have to find a different way of saying that. Adam, it's great to have you on board. I know it'd be great if you could talk about, from Microsoft's perspective, do perhaps a little bit of scene setting in terms of how law firms and vendors are leveraging the Microsoft platform, including Copilot. I know, and it would be great, just before we kick off, perhaps to clarify, I introduced you, but it'd be great to know a little bit more about, you know, your role as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks, Caroline. And yeah, I think well, Henrik and Nigel really sort of teed me up nicely there, I think, with some of their introductions. But I guess from my perspective, yeah, I work within Microsoft UK, and as we said earlier, I lead the professional services and media and telco business application team. Bit of a mouthful, I appreciate, but the legal industry is one of our key focus industries that we work on in the UK. So work with a lot of the large firms in the UK, thinking about their business application requirements across their firms. So I guess, you know, wanted to sort of share today a little bit about some of the themes and challenges I guess we've heard from the sector. Don't profess to be a deep expert like people that work in the sector, but certainly we're having a lot of conversations at the moment. And I think I guess maybe just to kind of level set up front as well, I think one thing when it comes to the discussions we're having, whether it's around the Microsoft platform in general, whether it's related to the AI components, the Copilot components, etc., ultimately kind of any of those conversations must be linked with driving some kind of differentiated experience that you can deliver to your clients, or improving kind of the business performance and the outcomes you're trying to achieve as a firm. So it kind of sounds obvious, but that's kind of, I guess, where we want to ground our conversations when we're having this. And I think probably just to sort of build on it a little bit, I know sort of Nigel touched upon kind of how Fieldfisher have committed to kind of elements of the Microsoft platform, but I suppose we think we're in a really great position to support the legal sector when it comes to our overall cloud platform, including obviously those AI capabilities that we've touched upon. So obviously, huge investment going into our platform every year. And when we think about it, I guess kind of maybe just break it down into a few areas for everyone on the call. We've got an end-to-end portfolio of applications, from our business applications through to our productivity platform. And I guess what I mean by that is, a single platform and data model that covers our productivity tools. So those tools that you're using every day, obviously the Teams meeting that we're on now, the Office 365 components, etc., through to our Dynamics 365 platform and our Power Platform with things like client experience, finance solutions, and then the low-code development where we can create applications to solve a multitude of challenges across businesses. Obviously, when it comes to Copilot, we'll probably kind of go into a bit more detail on Copilot because it is obviously a hot topic at the moment. But within our first-party applications, we do have these AI Copilots, these personal assistants built in to every product to help drive productivity and efficiencies across individuals. I guess a couple of other key things I want to touch upon is, one thing that we're very, aware of at Microsoft is that, not everything is Microsoft. There are other providers out there. So we do have a number of pre-built connectors into kind of existing legacy third-party solutions. So things like SAP, Elite, Interaction, etc. We can integrate into some of those kind of key existing line of business systems that you have within the legal market. But then I think one thing that we're kind of really proud of and we're really focused on is our partner network. So we've got sa.global obviously on the call today, one of our key partners, and so we have a number of partners in the legal market who will create IP and technology that sits on top of our platform. And I guess the key there is that is really accelerating the time to value for some of those kind of niche capabilities that we know are there within the legal market, from some of the sort of case management, matter management, financial management, etc., and how that can be really brought to market quicker. And then just finally, I suppose when we think about the overall platform, we do everything sits on our trusted Azure and enterprise cloud infrastructure. So it's all built kind of with the leading security, compliance, data privacy, and responsible AI approach. So yeah, I guess that's kind of at a top level where we are. I guess thinking about how Microsoft platform can support at the moment, and I think probably go into a bit more detail on some of the themes and efficiencies we're seeing with some of the AI capabilities as we go through the call.
That's great. Yeah, I do think you're in a great position because obviously everyone's looking at that integrated experience. I think that that's a real priority and very much accelerated by Copilot and the advent of Gen AI. Excuse me. If you've got questions as we go, please do post them in the chat. So we're going to talk, as I said, about it's interesting, Nigel. You want to be very candid about the fact that you've done the preparation. In our prep calls, you're saying we are getting ready, and I think that's really important for all of us to talk about the journey, right? So before we start talking about, advanced AI. So let's focus before we start talking about the transformative. Let's talk about some of the prep work that's gone on in the background, and perhaps why you think so. Why is it so important to focus, in your opinion, on the routine, and what does that mean in practice? I suppose, Henry.
Sorry, was that that's to Henrik or to myself? Sorry, Carol.
That's Henrik. We start with automating just routine tasks. Like so you don't start deep dive. So what does that mean in practice to you, Henrik?
Thanks, Caroline. I thought you said Nigel, but anyway, I'm more than happy to kickstart that. So
I may have said Nigel.
Yeah,
I'm just keeping you on your toes. Right?
No, absolutely, no worries. So in many ways, what our belief is that there is no AI without a strong platform and a strong data foundation, right? And that was some of the first initial conversations we also had with Nigel when we initiated some of the initiatives that we've been working on for a period now. So when we talk about AI and its transformative power, it's super essential to begin by stating that there is no AI without a solid data and cloud platform foundation. Right? There's no AI cannot operate or deliver the value without sort of a centralized, structured, governed data set. Much like when you build a skyscraper, right? You can't build that without a strong foundation, right? You can't build higher without reinforcing the base. It's simply impossible. And this principle is especially crucial for law firms because they handle a lot of sensitive data and I'm sure complex workflows, and at least what we've learned working closely with Nigel. And we need to think when we adopt AI as building that skyscraper. Otherwise, it's just not feasible to get as I said, the value out of the investments you're making.
Yeah. Talk about it from your perspective, Nigel, in terms of the work that you've been doing.
Yeah, sure. So I talked about obviously our 4 pillars. I mean, so much of this actually starts, as Henry says, that to me is the technology piece. You start with the solid foundation. You start with understanding what data you've got, where it is, and that kind of basic kind of data mapping exercise. Also, who owns it? Just good data management. I think that's a given. It's almost table stakes for AI. But actually, for me, the 2 bits that I guess really come into it is that culture and the skills. We very much kind of took an approach that said we're really going to focus on educating our people first, because we see that this is so fundamentally different from anything else that's come down the pipe to us before. It's a very different way of interacting to obtain information, and this whole kind of, I mean, I'm sure we haven't got to talk about prompting, but the ability to learn how to do prompting, the skills that you need, the result sets. Within legal, it's all about precision and about understanding and getting the right results and being able to show that. Now, one of the challenges around AI, and one of the challenges that we've certainly found, is if you haven't got those skills from day one and you just try it, the likelihood is you put in a terrible prompt and you'll come out with a terrible answer. And therefore, it's very easy to dismiss it and go, well, this is rubbish. This isn't going to help me. And it's an investment in building those skills. And that starts with knowledge. It starts with advocacy. And so these are all things that we've started building. And these are the foundations that we've put into place. So we built what's called an Accelerate AI program. We've been working with lawyers to help teach other lawyers through various means, whether it's lunch and learns or whether it's much more focused individual sessions, and building from that, giving a much deeper understanding of how to use the technology, how to interact with it, where to use it. And actually what's been fascinating to me is I've been on a journey with this because I've been learning things that was like, wow, I never knew that you might want to use it in this type of scenario. And some of the things that we've found, and just from obtaining feedback over the last sort of 6 months, has been incredible. The imagination that some people have used to come up with ideas of how to use the AI in certain types of scenario is just incredible. So I think for us that's been the kind of the bedrock. It's building that culture of acceptance, the engagement, the advocacy, and building the skills. I think actually it was Adam that said on a pre-call we had, which I particularly loved. I think you said, Adam, correct me if I'm wrong here, you said it takes 11 minutes a day for 11 weeks to form a habit. And I wrote that down because I thought that is absolute gold. And that to me is one of the key challenges that I faced is 11 minutes a day. Right, we bill in 6-minute increments. So 11 minutes a day is actually costing us money. And that's an investment every day, every week for 11 weeks to get to a point where you really get the value out of Copilot and AI. But it's getting it to form a habit. And I think for me that this has been the biggest thing that I've been sort of championing, to set that in place. So yeah, that I think has been, that bedrock has been based around culture, skills, and as Henrik says, the data and the technology piece.
So interesting. I do think that there's been a sea change, in terms of attitude. So in terms of bringing people along on the journey, it's always been within legal. I think a little bit of a struggle, to be frank. And the cultural piece has been the real challenge. I think the advent of Gen AI has developed an excitement and a feeling of energy in firms, but then that doesn't necessarily translate always into adoption, right? So the habit, that's a really interesting observation in terms of how you harness some of that enthusiasm and then turn it into people actually using it on a day-to-day basis, which is where a lot of the challenges have arisen in the past. Where have you seen, is there anything that you can share in terms of sort of the early stage, how you automate routine tasks and start demonstrating value? Is that maybe Henrik, is that something that you could comment on? And then I'd love to come to Adam, because I know your legal team has been doing its own work, which I'm looking forward to hearing about.
Sure. I mean, I can begin the answer, and then Henrik can fill in a bit. But I mean, for me, okay, some of the just default Dynamics 365 capabilities that have come on stream since Microsoft announced their Copilot in D365 have been pretty beneficial. So obviously, where sa.global come to us is they add the sort of the secret sauce, the legal layer, which enables us to do even more with these capabilities. But the reality is Microsoft are advancing their product at an incredibly rapid rate, building Copilot D365 capabilities in. And they range from very basic kind of mundane routine tasks to things that really just can add simple value for different roles. So just to give you sort of some flavor for some of those default things we've been taking advantage of, there's quite a lot of automation at kind of the summary insight level. So for me, that's clients, matters, suppliers. That master data instantly can give you some insight. So, the summary of things like 12 months worth of billing, it just gives it to you. You haven't got to go and ask for it. It says, here's the last 12 months worth of billing. And if you have the role that can see that, that's automatically made available to you. You can see the outstanding invoices, payments made. Again, just quick value insights, snapshots around whatever you're looking at, be whether it's a specific client or an individual matter. It's like quick summary insight data. And as I say, this is just standard product. It's not anything that's just coming online. And as I say, more and more of it, because of the kind of evergreen model, it's just available to us. So we're almost having to kind of go, right, what can we handle? How much of this can we do now? And kind of trying to figure out our game plan. So we're currently looking at kind of the AP automation for invoices. That's now AI enabled. The intelligence is there, and we're kind of thinking, right, how do we work that into our workflows? How do we work that into our processes? And that's where we're collaboratively working with obviously SAG to understand which bits and where the value and where can we add and even sort of supercharge some of that AI with kind of a more individual legal layer, which they're obviously, providing to us. So I hope it just gives you a flavour for some of the things that are coming online right now, but I'll pass over to Henrik.
Yeah, no, and I think you already, and I very nicely sort of put through all of the different things that we're working together on. I think the important thing is also to say that all of these routine tasks, through the style and the way that we collaborate with clients like Fieldfisher, we obviously use that as push that back into our product team and ensuring that that becomes part of how we look ahead and how our product roadmaps evolves and transforms, and helps us to constantly, utilize or let's say enable the power of the platform for the good use of Nigel and his team. And there's that collaborative format and that approach to how to share and build that and build it into our product roadmap is where the magic really comes to life. That's where we start talking use cases. That's where we start to talk innovation that drives the transformation. So I can only add to what Nigel has already said.
Adam, I know you wanted to talk about some of the work that your own legal team has been doing. So I'd be interested to hear about that before we move on to think more about the transformative as I've sort of described it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think love some of the comments from Nigel as well, more broadly around the cultural piece as well. Just to sort of touch on that, I think I guess we kind of call ourselves customer zero at Microsoft for Copilot, in terms of adoption, and I think we've learned a lot. The 11 minutes a day piece that Nigel mentioned, I think, and building it in as a habit is critical. I think we all kind of have to ask ourselves almost every day, like any task we're doing internally now, how can I do this on Copilot? Can Copilot help me here? And I think it's just trying to build in that habit, as Nigel touched upon. I think just to sort of touch upon our own legal team as well, specifically. So our CELA legal department internally at Microsoft, multiple thousand employees across the globe, have been, adopting the use of AI and Copilot technologies kind of quite heavily over the last few months. And I think there's, again, quite a key piece there was the cultural side, and I think they've put in a change management and communication plan. They have a community of, I think they call them AI catalysts, that effectively represent the different practice groups to help them drive the AI transformation across our legal organization. They've also done things like actually introduced recognition to celebrate team members that have, I guess, contributed specifically innovative ideas that could be solved using AI and Copilot. And I think perhaps critically as well, it does have sponsorship from the top levels. So, a bit like when Nigel was talking about making sure the kind of the lawyers and the fee earners are really kind of bought into this. Our chief legal officer globally, Brad Smith, is kind of the sponsor of this within our legal team, and so really driving both adoption at the ground level, but also kind of real sponsorship, and I guess setting the example from the top as well. And so we've seen really good adoption. I think there's also a sort of a training series that's been put in place, and so I think we're seeing significant increase in adoption of Copilot across the legal department. Just to kind of set a tiny bit of context around that as well. I think Nigel touched upon some specific use cases, perhaps within the finance and some of the business application side. Obviously, we're seeing kind of Copilot really help when it comes to summarizing legal documentation, extracting information, summarizing meetings, actions, some of those kind of things. And we actually ran a trial within the CELA legal team, and I'm happy to share a kind of link to some more details on this if anyone's interested. But effectively, 50% of the people in the trial were given Copilot, 50% weren't, and they were given 3 kind of typical daily legal tasks to complete. And effectively, the people in the trial that had access to Copilot were able to complete those tasks 32% faster with 20% greater accuracy. So again, we're sort of driving that cultural adoption and change, and then we are now seeing some sort of, I guess, tangible results off the back of that.
I love the fact that we've talked about people first. Like within legal, I think we've been on such a journey, and we've so we sort of put technology first, I would say. I think there's been, in the time that I've been writing about legal tech, there's been such an evolution in terms of, it has to be technology that people can use and want to use and understand. But obviously, when we're talking about AI, one of the other things that I think we've been on a journey about is understanding that you have to be data ready. We've been learning over sometimes the hard way about the importance of that solid foundation for AI. I think that's been something that over the last few years has been this realization that AI doesn't solve everything unless you've got that really strong data infrastructure and governance. So what are the key steps, either what have been or what should be the key steps, would you say, in terms of assessing your AI readiness and making sure that you have got that solid foundation? I know anyone can jump in on that. Henrik, I'm going to pick on you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, Nigel.
No. Go to Henrik first. I'll follow up afterwards.
So say that again, Caroline.
I apologise if you can't hear me, Henrik.
No,
so I'm talking about what are the what are the key steps in assessing your AI readiness in terms of making sure that you've got that great data infrastructure and governance, etc.
Yeah, well, there are. Look, the assessments, and I think we already spoke a little bit about that. It's all about, as you say, you got to have, a wish from the top. That, implementing AI is not something you do with a magic wand, right? If it was that easy, a lot of people would have done it already, or a lot of companies would have done it already. There's a lot of preparation that goes into that journey, and I think Nigel made it very clear, across all 4 pillars. But one of the key things he mentioned is that leadership comes from the top, right? It's the leadership team of the company that needs to say this is something that the company needs to do, and then we equip the team members across the business with the skill sets and the understanding of what's required to go and learn and how to get these things organized and set up. And then back to that more foundational pieces, which is the data. Well, you got to understand your landscape, right? What's the infrastructure landscape of your business right now? Where do you have all the data that you need to collect and put in place? Are there parts of these systems that you actually might end up saying we're going to shut these things off because we're going to transition that into a different place, or use other tools to handle those things? So there's a lot of preparation that goes into this. I can only recommend that one of the first and most important things is you could say the cloud move is an essential one. And some companies haven't even, have not started that journey yet, but most have. But getting to that one platform helps you to, let's say, you need to think through your data structure to get to that one platform. And the minute you're on that platform, and in this case, you're on the Microsoft service-centric cloud, that helps you to, and it enables you to have a bunch of fantastic tools in place that can then get the momentum going, or get sort of the understanding going, and unlock that power for your employees to actually go and drive the initiatives they want to drive. But again, it's about obviously having a proper plan, have it aligned, and let it be a company-wide strategy. It needs to be led from the top to make this happen. It can't just be small. You can pilot things around your business, but it's got to come from the top decision to do that.
Yeah. I would support that, Henrik. We followed exactly that kind of model, I think it's fair to say. So the leadership is without doubt from the top. Our managing partner, Rob Shooter, originally was a tech and data lawyer. So he gets this and got it very early on when we had a lot of discussions. We've got buy-in across all of our European kind of ecosystem, our office structures, through country managing partners. There's representation, and again, similarly, they're all leading the charge from the top. The important thing, though, for us was to try and get that kind of top-down message clearly disseminated, but for ownership and the skills ownership more specifically to be decentralized. And I think, Adam, you called them AI catalysts in your legal team. We have a very similar term. So we're in the kind of process of really building that structure out at the moment, but we're calling them AI navigators. So they are there to be champions, basically. We're kind of really focusing the building their knowledge, their skills, so they really are the person in an individual practice or in a business function that people will go to if there's any kind of AI type question. They're the ones that have the knowledge, the skills, which they can then kind of flex to very specific either legal examples, be whether it's a dispute resolution type inquiry or a real estate type inquiry. They're able to understand and flex their knowledge. So we're really working on building that now, and for them to be the kind of evangelizers. There are some other sort of prerequisite things which we had to do, which I guess Adam can talk a bit more about. But there's things like looking at your frequency of your updates, looking at doing a kind of readiness assessment for AI, which again, we've gone through those processes. You want to make sure that to the point Henrik made, you know where your data is, but you also want to make sure that that data is properly secured, because once you put AI and Copilot over it, it becomes discoverable by everybody. So, it needs to make sure you've got the right roles and the right security, and that the AI has been locked down, correctly before. And that doesn't matter whether that's within the finance system. I talked about roles in finance. So this is the roles within our D365 implementation, or whether this is SharePoint or OneDrive. It's making sure that you've got those locked down and that's all correct. So there are a number of kind of stages you need to go through before you just turn on the lights, because if you just turn the light on, you're probably going to get a result and somebody will find something you don't want them to find. And that was, I guess, my initial paranoia when we first started this journey, was just wanting to make sure that, we'd done that due diligence, but also we've got the right kind of structure in place for the people side of it as well.
That makes so much sense. Adam, do you want to come in on that? And then there's a question that's been.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think Henrik and Nigel have covered a lot of detail there. I guess I think the original question kind of started around sort of the data piece and kind of, I guess, from learnings both internally, but also with clients across industries. Obviously, I guess the way to kind of get the full potential from AI, Copilot, etc., you do need kind of vast amounts of that high quality data. So I think, it was touched upon kind of understanding that data landscape, understanding the various different systems and silos that data is currently resides, and doing work up front around consolidation, rationalization, bringing that together into as consolidated or single platform as possible is obviously going to massively support. So I think, yeah, absolutely kind of agree. A lot of upfront work needs to be done, both from, I guess, just the pure kind of data quality side, but then all of, I suppose, the security and compliance and other elements that you need to think about when you're going on this journey. So I mean, there's a huge amount of guidance and literature out there. We have our kind of responsible AI approach that we follow at Microsoft, which covers some of this as well. But I think, yeah, absolutely, kind of probably the big learning from our side and speaking to customers is to get that piece done, up front in advance, because then you're going to have the most the most kind of success and potential from that data.
What about, there's quite a lot of people are keen in the chat to talk about the regulatory landscape, which obviously it's a vast topic. But are we able to sort of shed some light? There's quite a few people that the question is, could you please cover the regulatory landscape to ensure we remain compliant with GDPR, SRA regs, etc. It's just a vast topic, but are you able to share some insights on that?
I mean, I'm not an expert on AI regulation, to be honest. So, I mean, I can certainly point people to some of the sites in various areas. I mean, obviously, that is it is a hugely as you say, vast topic. I think as I say, our responsible AI approach kind of covers various pillars when it comes to kind of both the reliability and safety side, privacy and security, inclusiveness, transparency, accountability. So we have a kind of, an approach and I guess documented literature around all of that. But if it's probably not something I'm going to be able to go into a lot of detail on today.
So I'd be amiss if I didn't take the opportunity to say, well, I have some fantastic tech and data lawyers, which obviously I have used internally, and we are obviously very, very, very conscious as we've been looking at. I talked about our AI chatbot. It's a product we call Maxton. So as we've been developing Maxton, we're very conscious about how this sort of falls inside of, especially the European AI Act. So, there are things that we need to consider, and we are actually working them into the fabric of our AI deployments. Some of those they're not in force yet. I mean, the main one is this term, I think it's clause 4, so don't quote me, something around AI literacy in the Act, which talks about, obviously, a certain level of competency, which comes back to the point we were talking about with education. But what we are doing is looking at how to do self-certification within our access products, so that people will self-certify to say, yes, I have done the relevant training, I've done, the education, I am AI literate, I understand the policies and procedures. But, that's probably us over-egging what's already in the Act, but this, we're very, as I say, very conscious of it. But yeah, it's a very quickly changing landscape, and I think those that probably aren't in the legal industry should definitely seek legal advice as a consequence, because things are moving fast.
Yeah. So the work that I can't believe that time goes this quickly. But anyway, so I'll shut up. But I've seen firms that the firms that I speak to have done a lot of prep on their policies. I think it's fair to say that that's absolutely essential to have your policy in place and to take advice in GDPR, etc., before you do anything. I know. So, Nigel, I know we haven't talked about. So I know you've been doing a lot around a lot about billing, collaboration. I'd be interested to hear some more about that, and also be really keen to talk about sort of the various co-pilots, as it were. We've obviously talked a lot about co-pilot in the round, but I know there's different co-pilots. So keen to make sure that we get time to talk about that. So can you share with us some of the? I know you've been doing. There's a billing collaboration use case. I don't think that we've really had a chance to dive into yet.
Yeah, sure. I mean, obviously, I can't talk too much about it in detail because it's sort of still in flight. But we're working very closely with sa.global. As I said, they provide that layer between the standard Dynamics platform, as Adam was explaining, and how legal can adopt it. Obviously, billing is one of the key areas that we've been focusing on, because we see that as one of the areas that, without a doubt, would benefit the most from AI enablement, and kind of envisaging what would really aid and improve that whole process. So one of the key things that sa.global is doing is putting this into Microsoft Teams for us. So we have I'm sure Henrik can talk more of this in more detail, the Empower product. And Empower will allow us to effectively create Teams channels, which we can bring our people together into, but then give them access to kind of that whole billing process within Microsoft and the Microsoft ecosystem. So ultimately, the driver for this is to sort of less dependence on having to use the finance and finance teams, and certainly specific finance tools that I think a lot of lawyers see as a barrier. They see it as something that's very difficult to use. They don't like going into a finance system. They want to get the financial data that they need, then commence things like the billing process from an environment which they're more familiar to working within. And that's certainly what we're trying to enable with sa.global, and bringing AI there alongside to help kind of work with you, to coordinate you. It's almost like an assistant, like a finance assistant that will allow you to do things. So this can be anything from things like outside counsel guidelines, checking things like billing rates. It could be verifying, saying, well, actually, this is a very, very different billing pattern to what you followed for the last 3 months. this quarter the billing patterns changed. Why is that? So it's about providing value through the insight of understanding the data or looking at the patterns of that data. And then basic things like some retrieval of some simple audit information. So who's touched what at what point, and what do they do, and just kind of a quick summarization of that type of process. So again, we're kind of exploring where it will be, but we see this as a kind of a way of, I guess, nudging the user in an environment they feel comfortable working with to get the most out of that process.
Yeah. No, that just Caroline, just to quickly add to what Nigel is saying, it because it's very, very important that you think about it this way, that what we've done is that we're basically unlocking. I truly believe that Microsoft is potentially the most sophisticated technology company in the world, and their platform enables you to do so many things. You've got clients and the likes of Fieldfisher sitting on the other side saying, but how do I unlock the power of that platform? What we've done is that we are that let's say key to unlock the power of that platform. And what we do and what we've developed is that layer, as Nigel has referred to as evergreen, that sits on top of the platform, which is specific to legal firms. The Empower apps we've built is actually using the modern workplace, or the modern one workplace sort of platform, productivity platform, which is Teams. Teams as an example. All of our apps is built out with the UI through Teams, because that's where most of the employees is working day by day in and out anyway. So bringing those things together allows us to help Nigel to create a world where his fee earners are basically, a day in the life as a fee earner starts in Teams, and you work through Teams, and then you have the underlying transactional layer sitting underneath that brings you the enablement or the AI tools and all the other aspects of what you need to do to go and do effectively every single day. And that is really our job, right? To be that vehicle that drives and unlocks the power of that platform for the goodness of Fieldfisher and others.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that. So let's come, as I said, we're going to be talking about, we talked about Copilot, but I know that Fieldfisher, you're using Copilot in Edge, Microsoft 365 Copilot, you're beginning to look at D365. Can you perhaps clarify some of the work, or the sort of the different Copilots that you're using? Or you can just clarify that what you're doing.
Yeah, sure. So this is actually one of the challenges, and funny enough, Adam and I were talking about this, because I guess every environment has a slightly different Copilot, and in a way, Microsoft have actually made my story harder because everything's called Copilot. So people assume they've learned Copilot, but maybe they've learned Edge Copilot, so they understand how to prompt. But all of a sudden, I kind of go, well, now you've learned, and that you're using Edge Copilot, which means you're searching the internet. You've got all of that kind of AI intelligence from kind of the Bing, intranet and internet type search. But now you've got M365 Copilot, so you can also look at SharePoint and your OneDrive, and I think people just get a bit confused because it's suddenly like, wow, okay, so it's another Copilot. And then, of course, now we're introducing D365 into the equation with finance. So it's a story which obviously we have to continue to develop. But I think what people are now beginning to appreciate is for every type of task you need to do, there's a different type of Copilot AI that sits in the toolbox. So, Copilot is the toolbox. And then you have Edge Copilot, or you have M365 Copilot. So there are the different flavors or the different tools depending on what task you actually want to do. And I think it's taking a little bit of nuancing, but we're slowly getting there. But of course, we've got agents coming now, which is only going to complicate matters further. So I'll pass that one over to Adam to explain.
Adam, I think this is your fault. We're going to blame you for this.
Yeah. Oh no. Absolutely. I'll take some responsibility for sure. No. And I think actually, to be fair, Nigel, I think we might have to employ you to actually explain all these things, because I think you probably did a better job than me at doing it. But I think there is, we are sort of talking co-pilots now rather than Copilot, I'm afraid. But I think, maybe just to kind of simplify it a tiny bit from the Microsoft perspective as well. I think yeah, obviously, we see Copilot as that starting point for AI, and I think it's termed kind of the UI for AI by various people at Microsoft and elsewhere, I guess. But I think, look, yeah, there is multiple different Copilots across the Microsoft stack now, ranging from, as I say, that Nigel talks about, I guess the Copilot for Edge, just when it's thinking about more the web and the internet and summarizing content from there safely, through to M365, where I think this is probably the area where, certainly within legal and some of the various industries, we're starting to see kind of heavy adoption now of Copilot within that productivity suite, so within Teams and Office 365. And obviously I think everyone loves the Teams meeting summarization and some of these things, so that saves us joining quite as many Teams meetings as we used to, etc. So I think we're that's where we've seen, I guess, a lot of ramp and a lot of kind of, I guess, momentum over the last kind of 12-18 months. However, I think what's quite interesting now with Copilot, and just conscious of times, I'll just kind of whiz through this quickly, but what we're sort of really seeing now is that it's to really drive the value from Gen AI, it needs to be aligned into specific use cases within specific personas or specific lines of business. So I think, Nigel and Henrik have talked a bit about some of the functionality within the sa.global program that builds upon Dynamics 365 to support perhaps, people within finance about how they can actually do their jobs much more efficiently and in a far better way. So, and I think there was a report from McKinsey just earlier this year that talks about, the biggest adoption of Gen AI is actually within specific business units, and it's in specific tends to be quite a lot within sort of front office. So where it can actually have the biggest kind of impact to the business, rather than it just being a productivity kind of enabler, it's actually driving kind of business outcomes, business impact. So yeah, I think it's something like 65% of organizations are now trialing or using Gen AI, but it's typically not kind of necessarily everywhere yet. It's within those business functions which it's really starting to drive value. And yeah, I don't know if we want to cover agents now. We're probably running out of time. But you've probably seen we had our, I think someone mentioned in the chat, we had our Wave 2 release just in September, and I think our CEO described it that we're moving to an agentic world, which sounds very grand, and I think anything he says seems to sound quite intelligent. But effectively, these AI agents will work on behalf of us. They will automate long-running business processes. They'll be able to interact with customers, staff, clients, and actually integrate and with each other and as well. So effectively, but this is all kind of being done independently, but under your direction, without needing to prompt. So effectively, I think you'll see these agents starting to automate and orchestrate some of these long, complex business processes that, and I know there are probably quite a few of those within the legal market. And so, yeah, we'll start to see these coming. So it will be a sort of a co-pilot plus agents world in the future, where you'll have your individual co-pilots to support your productivity, but you'll have agents kind of running in the background that will be doing, automating some of those kind of complex tasks for you. And yeah, there is speculation that will be more agents than employees in the future, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's probably just a quick view from my side.
Henrik, what does agents mean in your world?
Oh, I think agents is just another layer, right, that Microsoft is building. But what I visualize for clients and for all of us moving forward is how Microsoft is evolving the platform, especially about modern workplaces, that you're gonna, one day we're gonna go to work and we're gonna log on, and you're gonna have your agent coming up this morning, and he or she's going to ask you, so Henrik, let me pull together from your Outlook, from your calendar, from your finance systems, from your underlying systems, and tell you that today you're going to do this. Should I start to prepare that PowerPoint presentation you're giving in the afternoon at 3 o'clock for that meeting? Should I do this and that? The agent is going to help us to drive that interactive conversation where a series of co-pilots is running around, behind the agent to do all these different things that Adam and Nigel has talked about today. I think we're up for an exciting time, an exciting ride. And if I think the most beautiful thing about working in the line of industry we're all in is that we've only just started this journey, right? And there's lots ahead of us. But I also have to say that the journey, the time is now, right? You really need to start to think about things now. And I think for especially law firms, the AI opportunity is immense. I think Nigel has already provided lots of great insights to how he, on behalf of, together with Fieldfisher, is moving things forward. But hey, it requires that you take the right steps, right? And you do it in the right order. And you start, by structuring your data, you make a decision, migrate to cloud, get to that one platform, and then start to embrace those initial productivity gains, as Nigel has already talked about, around billing and proposals and contract reviews and sales planning and, all different cash flow, predictive cash flow analysis and all these different things. Embrace it, get used to it, start to work with it, start to understand it, and then start to build your use cases that will bring you forward. Because if you do that, that's where you start to unlock the real transformative potential of what AI really holds. And obviously, at sa.global, we believe that by applying our empower and evergreen and transactional layer on top of the standard platform, we are actually those that enables that, the gap between unlocking the power of all the great things Alison said and getting those in the hands of Nigel for Fieldfisher. That's why we're here. And we believe that doing that through the lens of a very targeted, very focused into law firms is where we can really support the legal and law firms to take on the AI opportunity and ride with it.
Yeah, I think that's great. That's a great summary. I was thinking about asking you to put on your hats and sort of do some future gazing in terms of where this could take us. But I think to be honest with you, we've run out of time, so perhaps we'll save that. We're actually having another webinar with sa.global, and perhaps we'll save our sort of future gazing for that. So we've only got a minute left. But I just wanted to say thank you so much to everybody who's listened in with and asked questions. Thank you so much to all of you on the panel today. It's such an interesting and very fast moving area. I think it's so helpful to have these conversations because I do think that people are very aware of the speed of change, but there's a lot of pressure on people as well, and feeling that they have to get it right. So it's so helpful to have these conversations, and I really appreciate you making the time to talk to me, everybody, for joining us today.
Pleasure.
Thanks all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Cheers.
you so much. Thanks, everybody.